All right, I have officially hit record, so we can give it another minute or so or start whenever.
We can go ahead and start. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see you again. I am calling the meeting to order for our first RTAC meeting of 2025. How exciting. Do we have anybody on from the public? Let me go through. I don't see anybody.
I do not see anyone now.
All right. So first item on the agenda, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes as written for,
What?
we have, yes, ma'am.
I just need to read the
Oh,
notice
that's right.
of the electronic meeting first.
Yeah.
This meeting of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission is being held pursuant with the Code of Virginia subsection C of 2.2-3708.3, which allows a public body to hold an all virtual public meetings. The meeting is being held via electronic video and audio means through Zoom, online meeting, and is accessible to the public. The method for holding this meeting shall not change unless a new meeting notice is provided. Should the electronic transmission fail, you may reach out to TJPDC at any time. Notice has been provided to the public through the TJPDC offices to the media, website posting, and agenda. The meeting is held pursuant to the remote electronic participation and all virtual meeting policy as adopted by the Commission on July 25th, 2024. The meeting minutes will reflect that the meeting has been held by electronic communication means and the type of electronic communication means by which the meeting was held. A recording of the meeting will be posted at tjpdc.org within 10 days of the meeting. We are now official.
Thank you for stopping me for going too much further, and I appreciate the reminder.
One other quick note, for it to be an official electronic meeting, we do have to have everyone's cameras on during the actual meeting.
Thank you
all
for the
voting members.
all voting members.
All voting members, which is most everyone.
Don't be shy, everybody.
Sandy's my voting member.
All righty. Well, with the housekeeping items out of the way, I motion to vote approval of the August 20th, 2024 meeting minutes. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The meeting minutes are passed for August 20th. And all right, I motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 15th, 2024. Can I get a second?
I'll second that one too.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Excellent. We're flying through the meeting. Now the exciting part for the introduction of TJPDC's Transportation Director, Taylor Jenkins. Happy to have you on board.
I'd love to say a couple words, Tom. We're really excited to welcome Taylor. She comes to us with both private sector and public sector experience. She did work with the state at DRPT. She'll be supporting all of the transportation programming, so including rural TAC, but she'll also be working with the MPO, with our mobility management, RideShare, and some special projects like Safe Streets and Roads for All. So we're really happy to have her after having that position vacant for a little while. And she's hit the ground running. So I hope you guys see her as a resource and welcome Taylor. Taylor, you're welcome to say anything if you'd like to. I know I didn't prompt you for that.
No worries. Just want to share that I'm excited to work with you all.
We're happy to have you. Welcome aboard. All righty, switching into FY26 Rural Transportation Work Plan. Sarah, you're on. Nope, Sarah, you might be muted.
There we go. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Let's see if we can get it in presentation mode. There we go. Okay. So this is the annual work plan that we do every year for the rural program for the VDOT funds that we receive. Again, it's kind of intended to provide a blueprint for how and what work we're going to accomplish throughout the year for that VDOT funding. It is a requirement that we complete and submit this plan, and obviously we want your input as our rural partners in developing this and making sure that we are focusing on work that you are interested in and that will be beneficial to the rural areas as well as the entire TJPDC region. So you did receive a copy of the draft plan in your packet, and I did send out an email reaching out if anyone knew of any particular rural transportation needs that may be coming up in the next year. We are still open today for feedback on that. There is still some wiggle room with this plan. The draft will go to the commission for their March 6th meeting for them to review, and then for adoption hopefully in April, and then we will be submitting it to VDOT after that once it has been adopted by the commission. But you guys are the boots on the ground, so we wanted to get some feedback and input from you guys. So what we came up with was kind of finishing up some current programs and initiatives, as well as looking at some new things that could be helpful for the future. Just a quick highlight of what you saw in the draft is we will be completing the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan probably in about mid-year of FY26. So there is still a little bit of work to do there, but we're really excited to see that data and that information that will come out from there and how that can impact future projects. We're also looking at doing a regional travel demand management study. And this would be in conjunction also with the MPO and looking at the region very holistically as to how people are getting around, where are there issues, where can we look at possibly changing infrastructure, like with park and ride lots, just really getting a holistic picture of what traveling through our region looks like. And obviously, with the majority of our region being rural, there will be a lot of work that will be coming through with our staff to look at that. Also continuing participation in pipeline studies. Also, as always, smart scale application support. Our staff is always available and ready to help with that. And then the other one that we were kind of looking at, with having the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan wrapping up soon, looking at this travel demand study, we were kind of kicking around, I wonder when it's time for a rural long range transportation plan to be completed. It looks like the last one was done in 2020, so it hasn't been too terribly long ago, but as we all know, after the pandemic, lots of things have changed since then. So I think one of the things that we want to do next fiscal year is really take a look at, again, holistically, what is going on in the region, where are their needs, and at what point does it make the most sense to look at another long-range plan. So with that said, this is the budget so far that we have come up with for the draft. There isn't really much change from last year, except where I see that I need to change the date there. We did move about $2,000 more into the admin task category, as we've had some new staff, myself included, working more in the rural locations. We felt like we needed to do a little bit more admin to get connected with all of our rural localities and for some trainings. But everything else, the categories are pretty much still the same. So I will stop sharing my screen and open this up for some discussion from the group.
So Sarah, please remind me, when was the regional bicycle plan last updated?
That is a great question, Todd. I believe that one might have been in FY19. So also probably pre-pandemic, but I'll double check that, but I know it was, I believe, in FY19. So that has also been a little while.
All right, Sarah.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Did anyone come up with anything that they know or are anticipating in their particular localities for
I just have,
next year?
I have a general comment that I make sort of every smart scale round, is that I feel it becomes more and more challenging for the rural localities to apply. So I think there's a strong emphasis on starting earlier and identifying what intersections can be studied, should be studied, who's studying them. And so I encourage all the members of RTAC, including myself, to coordinate with VDOT. I would probably say starting this summer with what do we want to start doing studies, because if we wait till we start going through the chart, the flow chart of when to submit, I mean, you may not have time to do that study. So I think it's nice to see that as one of the items that we'll get assistance on, because we should start earlier as they get more challenging. Just a comment, nothing to add on to that.
No, that's definitely a great point.
I don't know how this relates to our group, but Charles and Sandy, just so you know, we've had Eric and I have had a meeting with Scott here in Fluvanna about possibly pursuing a smart scale at some point for a roundabout at Route 53 and Route 619. I don't know if we want to maybe talk about having something done, maybe a site visit or something to pursue the possibility, how feasible it is for smart scale going forward. Chuck, you're muted if you.
Is that Kings Martin?
No, that is
Oh, 619.
Cunningham Market. You're muted again, Chuck.
Yeah, we looked at it before and it didn't really meet the requirements for safety. And it's outside the UDA area, so it
Right.
didn't have any, it wasn't eligible. So
Okay.
I don't know if that has changed, unless that's changed any, I don't know how, I mean, it wouldn't be scored very well.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, we can look at it again. I'll look at the safety data. We've got the 2023 data now. The 2024 data typically doesn't come out until the fall. So, but I can look at whatever data we have and see what's happening at that intersection, and look, then we can let you know. That was the issue last round. You guys don't have a whole lot that's going on there in Fluvanna that would be, I mean, putting together applications is not that hard. It takes a lot of manpower on our part and putting together the concept and this cost estimate. But the problem is that they're not competitive across the district.
Right.
More so than anything else.
Okay.
And we can talk about that more when we get to the smart scale stuff.
That works. Thank you.
Another comment I have is, do we have a list of I don't know if we need all the TJPDC long range priority plans, but those that are reasonable enough that maybe we bring them into a group conversation in these meetings and go, hey, this one's 10, these 3 are 10 years old, these 3 are a few years old. Like we have the Fluvanna Louisa Crossroads study, which is the most recent regional study we've done along Route 15. And so there's a topic idea for the next meeting is perhaps, obviously there might be a need for a new long range study, but what are the 5, 10, and 15-year ones that we have through all the counties that are on this call that we should be talking about, maybe needing a refresher that we agree. So I throw that out there for a couple of reasons, obviously. And then the pedestrian activities, I'd like to learn a little bit more on that, because from a rural standpoint, it's very difficult. I'll give you an example. We have the Betty Queen Center here in Louisa County, which has some walking trails on it. And we are just happen to have a gentleman rezone a property for a storage facility. And through talking to them, they agreed to extend that trail all the way to a street. And that's probably the first pedestrian activity we've done as a county in a while. And so I just wondering, you know, I understand the Charlottesville and the towns in that area, it's easier to do. Is the pedestrian activities, are we just looking for where we are with the localities? Should we be working with applicants to promote the creation of trails that are connected? And maybe that's another discussion item. That's a very challenging, I mean, bicycle and pedestrian is a challenging thing for a rural locality.
And this might be piggybacking on that a little bit. I was just looking in my files. We're about to start an update of our comprehensive plan. And we have some community plans, Zion Crossroads, Palmyra, Fork Union, et cetera. And a couple of those plans are 15 to 20 years old and could probably stand some updating. And it looks like they were done by Thomas Jefferson PDC.
Okay, this is fantastic discussion. Thank you all. I knew I could count on you guys. Yes, Jason.
Yeah, it's not really a transit related thing, but I'm sure you all are aware that the 3-notch trail project is getting started, right? I don't know where that falls in sort of your work plan, whether it's here or someplace else. And although it's Albemarle County, a 23-mile stretch between Charlottesville and Crozet and after tunnel, there's all kinds of talk of this being a regional asset. So counties to the east and to the west of Albemarle, certainly, if they build this piece, the others become easier to build. So just
That's a good point, Jason. It's in the, as you know, we were just in the meeting, but it's in the MPO's UPWP, their work plan. And so,
okay, I
you know,
figured it was somewhere.
mentioning
Thanks, Kristen.
it in here would be reasonable.
Yeah, it sounds like at least one meeting of conversations talking about regional plans in the area, their age, what they say in them, maybe each one of us talks about that plan. And I know that everybody's in various states of comprehensive plan review or adoption. You know, Louisa County is still working on focus areas. Our plans approaching that 5-year mark of taking a look at it. So yeah. What else are you looking for us, Sarah? What else do you want us to say?
This has been wonderful. You know, I really was just kind of looking for feedback to make sure that we were kind of on the right track and thinking in the right ways of things that would be beneficial to not only this group, but to all of our rural localities. So, you know, if we got something wrong, now's the time to say that as well. But these have been some great ideas to help move this forward. And good to hear, especially because we kind of came up with looking at the long range planning stuff was kind of one of the last things that we developed. And I'm just really pleased to hear that that is something that you guys definitely see value in and also a need in seeing, you know, what we've looked at, where and the progress of the status of some of those things, what's left, how that can be changed. So I find that really encouraging. So
Hey, Sarah.
yes.
The bicycle route, or I think it's Route 76, would that by any chance kind of fall under, it's not, I don't see it mentioned, but task 2.4, I'm not sure how important it is, because if I couldn't find anything in my notes, but I'm thinking where it goes through the Palmyra village, it's being reconfigured or rerouted, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know how big of a deal that is for what we're doing here.
Okay. I will look into that and maybe we can have some conversations about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And lastly, I see some money put aside for grant applications and writing. Are we looking at like regional, or is there a particular really, Lord knows what we're going to be able to apply for this year, but is there a particular grant that each locality would be able to apply for separately through that? How is that money, or do you have particular grants you're looking to look into this year, I guess?
I'm going to take that one, Sarah. Yeah, this is more of a contingency, like as things come up, if, for example, your locality is applying for something and they want our support, it's already written into the work plan. So it could be anything from Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation to Smart Scale to any other locality specific and or regionally specific applications that come up. So that's really a holding place, because we have found that when folks reach out to us for help, we're scrambling to say, where are we going to build this? Like, what funding source are we using to staff this time for our team? So it's any and all of the above sources, but it's not a particular, like, we have ones in mind that we're going after and we're putting this money aside to do it. It's when pipeline opportunities present themselves, we can then go to this line item and say, this is the support our team can provide for that.
Thank you for clarifying. So does that money roll over to the next budget cycle if it's not used, or does it get like possibly reallocated in 2026 to other items that are in need?
That one.
Okay.
The latter of the two, because this funding does
Gotcha.
not roll over. This is a use it or lose it source. So it has to be fully expended by June 30th of each fiscal year.
So I guess, is this a conversation that the TJPDC has with our county administration staff and directors about, hey, this amount of money has not been spent, what would we like to use it on? Or should we bring this item up once a year into our meetings going, hey, we're halfway through the budget cycle and we've not used this money. What do we as a group want to? So I'm not looking for an answer today. I'm just throwing that out there. So
I'm not going to give you an answer today, but I think it should be the latter. I think it's this team deciding on how these planning dollars are spent. And if it's not in the categories that are outlined in this plan, then we need to reallocate those as the year goes on. So for example, with Safe Streets and Roads for All, when we created last year's work plan, there was no way for us to know which localities were going to be interested in doing a application for implementation funding. Right? And we can only bill our administrative time to the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant under the scope of work in the budget that we have. But if somebody wanted to apply for a grant, for us to be able to help them, we had to have this line item. So I think it's incumbent upon this group to be looking at this work plan quarterly, twice a year, whatever it is, and say, are all of these still relevant? And if not, do we need to amend this and put resources into a different bucket based on how priorities are shifting?
thank you.
And Sandy and Chuck, you can speak to what kind of review process. I mean, our work plan is internal, but is there anything that we would need to do with VDOT if we were changing the scope of what we're using those planning funds for?
It's the same thing as in the MPO's work program, where if one of your budgeted items is going to be 10% different, I believe the administrative guidance says that you should amend it. But if you're keeping it all within the same like program code, then you have some flexibility, I believe.
So let me ask another question. Sorry to drag everybody through this. Is there benefit then to us doing with the rural work plan what we did with the UPWP, where we have two major line items? One is the admin and one is the programming. And then we internally budget for different activities, but that's not reported back to VDOT in that way, so that we aren't, sorry, we're not bound by that 10% plus or minus. We just can't go 10% over the total amount. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is the answer just full stop yes?
Yes.
I love that.
The bottom line is you can't spend more than $72,000.
That's it. So maybe what we're going to probably bring back to you guys is a second version of this, where rather having costs by activities, we're saying we can use up to $58,000 for any and all of the following activities, including contingencies, so that it doesn't trigger some sort of amendment process if you all change priorities and or we don't spend in one category and want to put it into another. That would instead be a committee decision that doesn't have to go through a VDOT review. Sandy and Chuck, is that all kosher? Did I say that all above board? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sometimes they should come out with, I meant to say this at the MPO meeting. They usually come out with a template, and there may be stuff that they want you to do, but you don't have to spell it out as a separate line item in the plan. Just put it in that group of stuff you're going to do. Sort of like what we do at the tip.
Got it. Any questions from anybody on this group about that approach? That certainly makes it administratively less burdensome, but also programmatically more flexible for you all.
So as someone whose previous job was at a PDC, I say the more flexibility you have, the better.
Great. That's
100% agree with you.
great discussion.
I mean,
That's
you end
all
up
about it.
spending more on administration costs than you do on getting stuff done.
Chuck, if I could just ask questions of big groups like this and just get a yes more often, that would be amazing. No debate, just yes. Great. That was really helpful, guys. Thank you.
Yes,
This is
thank
good.
you.
Is any-
Thank you all for this feedback. It was immensely helpful.
Thank you. And we might have more feedback as we share this information with other individuals within our organizations. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments to add before we move on to Smart Scale, our favorite topic?
I am gonna belabor this. I'm gonna ask one more question of Chuck and Sandy. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
So if we are taking those activity budget items and not assigning a cost to those, how important is it that the activities are very specific? So for example, when we're talking about, should it say things like 3-notch trail or bike ped plan or Route 76, or should there be a generalized title for bike and pedestrian planning activities, regional trails studies, like things like that? What's the best practice for us making it very flexible, but also meeting the letter of the intent?
The way, like I said, the way we've worked it before is you sort of have that broken down with costs for the individual items underneath, but it rolls up into one budget, but you don't have to break them out in your plan. So you should list them out. So you're focusing on these are what, because so that everybody knows that we're going to be working on this stuff. It's more like clarification from the technical committee and the TJPDC commission, so they can have some clarity about what the money's going to in the plan. But you don't have to assign a value to it.
I would also add that if you all have some general categories, like your contingencies for potential grant applications, I think the best practice would be just to be specific if you spend money in those on what those activities are in your monthly reports. So you don't necessarily have to put them in the plan, but make sure that we're capturing the work that's being undertaken in that category.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Lynchburg does things differently, Carson, so Chuck and I kind of took over that one.
I haven't had a lot of conversations with Rick about it, so I don't know. But my thoughts are simple is better. No point in making our lives difficult.
That's what I like to hear.
You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Hopefully. Yes, no?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Well, maybe I can get this to start. There it goes. Okay, smart scale this round, not good for this region. One of the reasons is this chart right here. This is the financial forecast for the 6-year plan. And as you can see in red, that's construction budget. It's getting reduced by $1.6 million. And that money's going to maintenance. So basically we had 2 rounds of this omnibus bill, supplemental fuels tax getting implemented, and now it's gone. Well, it's not gone, but it's back to what it's normally going to be on a regular cycle. The other thing is maintenance costs are going up. This was when they gave this presentation, it was right after the big snowstorm we had. And they said that based on the snow budget, this is what it is. It could get worse if we get a lot more snow. So we'll see how the snow plays out next week or Wednesday. So this is what the numbers they gave us. Okay, that being said, this is basically pretty much what we've gotten every round in Smart Scale from a funding. Now this is for Culpeper District, so Nelson's going to be in with Lynchburg District, but this is basically what we've been funding every round, the amounts. So you can see in round 4 and 5, that's the phased in fuels tax. And round 6 is basically without that. Well, it's got it, but it's just a smaller amount because it's been phased in. And then you can see some of the previous rounds before that and how they've been implemented. Round 2 was just one year of funding, where rounds 1 was actually 4 years of funding, about, plus the FAST Act funding. Round 3 was 2 years of funding. That's when they started the 2-year cycle. So 3, 4, 5, and 6 are 2 years of the 6-year plan funding cycle. And then the high priority, we've gotten some, luckily, every round, but typically we've just got lucky. This round, as you can see, we were able to get one project funded in the MPO area with the high priority funding. The other 2 were in the rural areas. All these were up in the northern part of the district. 2 around the town of Culpeper and 1 up in the town of Warrenton. But as you can see, we got $68 million in DGP, and we actually had to take $6.6 million out of it to fund deficits on other applications because of escalation that wasn't already covered. And primarily those were projects in and around the city, but there was like 7 or 8 projects overall that got some of that funding. Basically, some of the outcomes of this were we had 53 applications out of 270 submissions, 4 in the Culpeper District out of 24. The changes in land use, it lowered all the scores, but it was across the board. But it did provide benefit to all the projects. Economic development changes, we did see that drop significantly. Or slightly drop, because only a portion of it is actually economic development. There's 3 pieces to it. The other 2 pieces, which makes up 40%, there are other factors that aren't necessarily related to economic development. Travel time reliability, and can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But like I said, they're not basically specifically economic development sites that we're measuring. The third thing is the high priority didn't affect us, dropping step 2 in the funding process. Basically, that's where you would, if a project is skipped when they're starting to apply the funding, that's because it's only eligible for HPP, it would get funded in that step 2. The project we got funded would have been funded either way. And then the last bullet is the changes in eligibility. It could have affected us, but basically we saw a decrease in 55% of applications because of those changes, but the average cost went up 53%. So those are what they were trying to accomplish with those changes, but it basically left us with a lot of projects that weren't eligible for HPP, which I think could have helped us a little bit more. And lastly, let's see. Okay, here's how we scored overall. You can see the district median in the middle of the map and the statewide average. So overall, we did really well from a statewide perspective. There's just only so much money to go around. And that's what the problem is. It's not that we don't have good projects. It's just there's not enough money to go down the list very far, so to speak. But like I said, all the ones in green, you only had 1 below the line, and that's sorry, Tom, it's the 15250 intersection in Louisa. We can't help ourselves on that one. I don't know what we're going to do to fix it. So, but everything else scored above the statewide median. Some of the other numbers you can see here. overall, we had 7 projects score in the top 25% across the state, and 18, which is 75% of our applications, were in the top 50%. So and all of ours were in the top 65. So I think that's great for putting together good applications and getting them in. There's just only so much money to go around. And to finish up, they're going to be, we've already talked to our CTB member about the applications, and we're in agreement with the ones that were recommended. So those are the ones he's going to move forward with. They're going to be having public hearings between April and May. And then at the May meeting, the CTB will approve the consensus list, and then they'll approve the 6-year plan at their June meeting with the census projects included. So that's pretty much all I have. Any questions? And we'll make Sandy's going next week, next week. We have the POC meeting where we get together and talk about how the program went and suggest changes and talk about all the various things about Smart Scale. I hope every one of you got the survey that was sent out and you respond to it. They're basically pulling all that information and they're going to be presenting it at our meeting next week. So if you haven't done it already, go ahead and fill that out because it's very important moving forward for us, so we can look at what we might want to change between this round and next round. And I agree with you, Tom. We are going to talk about kicking off sooner than later. So we'll be circling up with you all probably later this summer, no later than August, to start looking at projects we want to recommend for next round, and we can start working on. That's pretty much all I have. You guys have anything else?
I have a question. So let's say you're in an election cycle and we meet in summer and we come to an idea, and then the next January we have difference of opinion. We're back at that. You really need to sort it out now, right? You can't. Okay, so that's for the benefit of everybody. I'm not saying that I have experience in that.
The problem is it takes for us to help you put together an application. I need to know by no later than November what your application is going to be, so that we can actually help you put together the sketch and do the cost estimate and do any analysis that needs to be done. Because we just don't have enough time if we go shorter than that. And that's the primary focus. So I want to try to get those before the election cycle. I need to know what you guys are going to do. That way we have time enough to put together all the information you need for your applications.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there's no further questions on Smart Scale, we'll move on to the roundtable. Would you like me to start first?
Oh, wait, Tom, Carson
Yeah.
was going to talk about the Nelson County project.
Oh, yes. I am so terribly sorry. Please do.
I wanted to let Chuck take the majority of that presentation because this TJPDC is within mostly Culpeper. But regarding Nelson, we had one project get recommended for funding, and that's our Tambark roundabout. Ended up totaling around $12.5 million. So that's a big win. Next round for round 7, we're hoping to see if we can get Rockfish in based on how the data is going to look for when the PSI points come out for the next cycle. District wide, we have 12 projects submitted, 4 projects recommended for funding, totaling about $80 million. 2 of them in Campbell County, 1 of them in Pennsylvania County, and this last one in Nelson County. So overall, I think it was a good county for us, or it was a good round for us, looking for ways to improve the process for round 7. And I think it was a good first round for me as well, taking a Smart Scale. It's a daunting process, but I think we did pretty good for what we had this round.
Thank you.
Quick question, if you don't mind, Carson. If you could maybe just highlight what you think it was about the project in Nelson County that helped it score, or where did you think that it stood out, or was the kind of the part where it shined in this process?
I think it definitely did well in the safety aspect with Tambark being a PSI intersection. I think that was the main reason why this project got funded. Compared to the other two projects in the county, both of them were withdrawn from the pre-app. Mill Lane was pulled out from the pre-app process, and Rockfish during the full app process because they were not PSI points. So I think having Tambark as a PSI intersection really helped make that project push it in through funding.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our favorite topic, roundtable. You might be able to copy and paste mine from the last time, which is we are continuing the Planning Commission to work on our focus areas. We are still working on land development regulation updates and cleanup. So every time we clean something else, we find something else to look at, which is good. We're getting things cleaned up. And I think it'll be a busy year for Louisa County once again. Who wants to go next?
I can go. For Albemarle County, we are still in the throes of the comp plan updates. I believe land use is going to the board tomorrow unless Snow says no again to another presentation. We are currently writing our transportation chapter. So we're going to have a first draft hopefully by I think the end of the week to talk about internally. And then we've begun rural rustic stuff again in the county. We're trying something new where we're using our zoning notice signs. We're putting them at the end of each road with the intent to better advertise that something's happening, because we found that just mailing letters out wasn't always effective because there's typos when they're mailed, blah. So I have been inundated with calls and emails the last 2 days, but it means that my signs are working. And it's for other localities, if you have trouble with that kind of stuff, it could be worth a try to use some kind of government sign that you have already, just to like essentially get people's attention so that they call you and ask what's going on. And that's all I have.
Would you let me go next, Tom?
Whoever wants to go next is fine with me.
All right, so in Fluvanna County, we're still trying to get our update of the comprehensive plan off the ground. The next step, which may or may not happen tonight, is appointments to advisory groups. We do have community meetings set for end of February, beginning of March. So we are getting the process started. It's just taking a little longer than I'd hoped. We are short of staff right now. Our planner GIS technician did leave us to pursue another opportunity, so we're trying to fill that position. So if anybody knows a planner with GIS experience who'd like to come work in a rural locality, please send them my way. And we are looking at probably one TAP application for the upcoming grant cycle. We're working with Pat Moore and his team on that. And that's pretty much all I've got right now for Fluvanna County.
What's the TAP application for?
Still to be determined, but we're probably going to submit for the Fork Union Streetscape phase 2.
Thank you.
I can go, Tom.
Go for it, Jim.
Greene County, just the normal everyday stuff that we all struggle with. We are helping update the town comprehensive plan, the town of Stannardville. And we're about 3/4 of the way through that. Probably will be touching base with TJPDC to see if we can get some help with some of the charts that were created before, just updating those. We tried to create some, but I don't think we have enough staff or time to create graphs. So I'll be reaching out separately on that. And then other than that, we're working our way through local administration of a smart scale project, and that's a exciting and interesting process that is just beginning. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I can give a quick RideShare update. We have submitted our FY26 operating grant to DRPT. That grant funding cycle ends usually February 1st every year. So we did apply for funds to continue the RideShare program. We are also in the process of finalizing our CAP strategic plan for adoption as well. And I think Gorion had a Safe Streets and Roads for All update he wanted to give as well.
Yeah, so after the round 2 of engagement wrapped up, currently the biggest updates are that we're coordinating one-on-one meetings with each of the localities to discuss some safety criteria, the existing conditions report, and some jurisdictional snapshot, which include data from the high injury network. The purpose of these meetings is to get data so we can prepare the draft safety action plan to make sure that it aligns with the jurisdiction's transportation safety priorities. We have, I believe, 5 meeting schedules. The only county that has not responded back is Louisa County. After the one-on-one meetings are held, that data will be implemented into the draft comprehensive safety action plan. And after the draft is completed, it will be ready for presentation. So we're asking county staff to be put on the Board of Supervisors meetings in April so we can present that to the boards and get feedback from them. After they have had a chance to review it and provided feedback, all the suggestions will be implemented in the draft, and then we will ask them to adopt the final plan, which has to be done by June 30th of 2025. That's the biggest updates I had.
Thank you. Who else would like to go?
I have a question, not an update, but do you know when the notice of funding opportunity is scheduled for the next round of SS4A? Do you know when that's anticipated to be released?
By the end of March.
The end of March, okay.
Was it not canceled by the administration?
Not that we are aware of to date.
All right, I guess I'll go. Jaunt, the news that we have to report, our CEO, Mike Murphy's been sharing this with other people in the RTP. I shared it with the MPO tech. I want to share it with you all. Is that in January, we had a board retreat. It was specifically with the purpose of prioritizing initiatives where we need to focus our attention and energy, particularly Mike Murphy, our CEO. The 5 that they prioritized were upgrade our scheduling and dispatch software, which is very old. Implement microtransit demos, one being possibly Greene County, and one being the ADA service in the Charlottesville urbanized area. If we get those, we apply for DRPT grants for those, both of those 2. One's a demo grant and one's a capital software improvement. And then the other initiatives were to continue create a performance evaluation. We haven't had one in a long time. It includes the CEO. And then maintain an active presence as CARTA develops. And finally, work with CAT on formalizing our ADA agreement with them. So those are the top initiatives that our board has come up with, where we want to spend some time and energy in the next 12+ months. That's it for John. the gym. We could be doing something in Greene.
Thank you. Anybody else like to participate on a roundtable?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
So I want to throw a question out there for the entire group. It occurred to me while we were talking. Have any of our localities ever given thought on the comprehensive plan front on doing joint county town comprehensive plans? Jim mentioned that they're working on Standardsville's comp plan. Doesn't really apply for Fluvanna County, but at my previous job, one of our localities, Lunenburg, they did a joint plan with their two towns, Cambridge and Victoria. And it's more of a comp plan thing as far as a transportation thing, but it's worked well for them because they've not only done it, they updated it once, and they were in the midst of another update when I left down there. I didn't know if anyone's given any thought to that, or if so, whether they thought it'd be feasible or not for those who have towns within their counties.
I have two towns in my county. We have not done a joint comprehensive plan with either town in the 7 years I've been here. I can't recall them reaching out either to do that. But I can forward that up to a higher power to see if that's been done in the past.
It's just a thought, and if anybody might be interested in knowing more, I can steer you toward the powers that be down in Lunenburg County.
Does anybody have any other questions before we get ready to motion to adjourn? I have a question. So I have in our minutes from 2 meetings ago that we need to work together on getting alternatives for the meeting. So I'd like to remind all of you that if you do not have an alternate or your alternate is no longer available, to please email the TJPDC who your alternate is for the meeting to help with quorums and everything else that comes with that. And then I think for topics, Sarah, do you have a good idea for topics, or do we need to brainstorm before we adjourn?
I am always open to topics, but I do think that you guys had a great idea about maybe looking at some of the former plans as part of this group. I think that would be beneficial for all of us. But we are always still open for ideas and topics at any time. You know, it doesn't just have to be in this meeting. You can always email me them as well. If, you know, you have a thought and if you're like me, before it escapes you, you need to get it down. You can shoot me an email as well.
Do you know if we're going to have a legislative update, considering what's going on nationwide and July 1st with all the passing of the laws? Are we going to have one this summer about anything that might impact transportation from the General Assembly?
Yeah, I think that's definitely always an option. I know David Blunt in our office is usually more than willing to do that. So I will keep that on his radar and keep in contact with him if he has good information to share. I think he's more than happy to do that.
Great, because I've seen things about traffic cameras and things of that relation recently, and so I don't know whether there's things that we should talk about as a regional group that might, you know, impact our planning.
Hey, Sarah, this is Chuck. We have our POC meeting. I don't know if you mentioned it earlier. It's on next week, and following that, we might have ideas of stuff they're going to do to upgrade Smart Scale, so we can actually follow back with you guys next time on that, where we're at with that and what might change and how that's going to impact us. One of the things that we may want to discuss is changing our area type. I know Carson would like this because most of Lynchburg district is an area type D, and the rest of our district is an area type D. So one of my thoughts might be to change the TJPDC from area type B or C to area type D, because I think we'll get better scores out of our applications. But we can give you more information at the next meeting and follow up with you on that discussion.
That sounds wonderful and very helpful and important. Thank you, Chuck.
This one before, Sarah, and I know it's on your radar, but it can be a back burner item. It sounds like some of these other ones are more time relevant, but the what's going on in the Commonwealth with rail, I think is really important for us to just be paying attention to, even if you don't have rail coming necessarily stopping through your jurisdiction, you know, whether it's the corridor ID program through DRPT or the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority. I mean, there's a lot of relevant stuff just to be making sure we're paying attention to.
And I actually have been in contact with someone. We have not set a meeting date because I wanted to make sure that we had more than enough time to discuss the work plan and smart scale items today. But yes, I have been in contact. So that is definitely something we have when the timing feels right.
This group loves rail.
Yeah, Jason.
Not to forget the Virginia Breeze too. It's
Yes.
that's a big good thing, because I was looking at it the other day. I mean, yeah, we could take the train from this area into DC, into Lynchburg and New Orleans if we want to, but there's certain parts of our state that are not serviced. And that Virginia Breeze it's awesome.
Does anybody have any other matter that they'd like to share with the group before we conclude? Well, I appreciate everybody in attending. It's good to see you in 2025, and look forward to seeing you in person in the next meeting, weather permitting. I motion for adjournment. Second, I'm assuming all those are approved. So everybody, I don't think there's any dissenting vote. Everybody have a wonderful Tuesday, and thank you again for your time. We very much appreciate it.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.